Hey, I'm going to talk a little bit about building community in an online environment and just kind of talk you through this presentation. So let's start with the idea that the virtual environment is different. When we're moving from a physical classroom to a virtual one, I think of it as like entering a new culture. We don't know the rules, we don't really know how things work, and we have to learn our way around this new environment. This makes us vulnerable in new ways because we don't really know what we're doing and we have to learn new ways of living. Our instinct at first is to try to recreate what we've always done in our face-to-face classrooms without realizing that these environments are very much different. Not better or worse, just different. And I think it's taken me a long time to come to that conclusion because I always felt that the face-to-face classroom was inherently better. But I'm starting to question that, and I've come to believe that it's just different. The differences have to do with barriers of time and space. So in many ways, the online environment allows us to transcend barriers of time and space because we can access that environment at any time from any place. But it also creates barriers that are not present in the physical classroom. We are at a distance from our students and we can't communicate with them in the ways that we have in the past. And at first it can feel like holding one of those long mechanical hands and trying to pick something up with it, that you just feel like, oh, if I could only just be there, it would be so much easier. So because these barriers are present that aren't present in a physical classroom, we need to create channels of communication, sort of laying out an environment ahead of time and being very deliberate about how we use them. Being present in an online class is very different than being present in a face-to-face class. We can't improvise. We need to really create that environment or create that presence and cultivate it very deliberately. We need to foster relationships in new ways. So here are some things that can help. One is to be very regular in checking your class site. If you're absent, it's easy for them to be absent. It's easy to forget about that because it's not scheduled in the same way. And although we're probably better at managing our time than our students, we still need reminders. It was helpful for me in this past semester to have certain times that I checked in with each class that were different so that I could be sure that I was keeping up with them, and to create a schedule for yourself. Create fixed forums for students to use. I tried to put on our Moodle site like a consulting forum, a social forum, and then of course there's the news forum. And then try to be present in these student forums and check them, and even the ones where you're having your students do discussion. It means so much more to them if they can see that you're present in those forums. Have a link to your online office hours. Allow students to sign up for office hours. Be explicit about when they can expect response to an email. Like if you're going to be away, let them know so that they don't, email you 50 times saying, why haven't you gotten back to me? Get to know your students. Surveys can help. The survey that I gave you all before we started the class was really helpful for me. Writing always helps, as we all know from years of teaching writing, that the best way to know our students is to give them opportunities to express themselves through their writing. And individual conferences by Zoom can be amazing if you can manage to do them. And I know when you have many, many students, it's not always possible. So as I said, our interactions become more deliberate, sort of almost more choreographed. We structure systems that allow us to maintain contact with students in an online environment because that contact is not going to happen as serendipitously as it does in a live classroom situation. So we have to create environments for communication and issue invitations. But I want us to think about who we weren't communicating with in our face-to-face classes? You know, who were the students that didn't stand out in the face-to-face classes? And think about the advantages of this online space. If we're going to be good at creating community online, we have to do it in the online environment and not try to recreate what we did in a face-to-face environment. So think about some of the advantages of the online space, and these are just some that I thought of, but I'm sure there are many more. The online space allows us to give personal messages to students in the course of their reading and writing, because we can often get right into a document while they're writing and see their process of writing. Many of us have used writing conferences in the past, but there are possibilities with online spaces that are even more powerful than those online conferences. We can also get involved with their reading. If we have an annotation program for reading and we can watch them annotate, we can respond to their annotations. We can actually enter that space where they're doing their reading. Students who need more time to process can reflect before having to respond. And we can reflect before we react to what they say, which is an advantage that we just don't have when we're in a face-to-face class. For students who are less likely to participate in a face-to-face class, the online class allows us to create spaces for those students. It also redefines participation, because it's not the person who says the most, it's really what we see in a written space. So we can see those online interactions. We can moderate them on our forums. We can create invitations and spaces for people to enter. And I think sometimes that's difficult to do in a face-to-face class when you have many students who will eagerly claim that space. It's sometimes hard to make room for others, and this can be easier in an online space. We want to also make space for diversity. I like this image. It's kind of like a Zoom call of the animal world. Allow as much opportunity as possible for students to express their backgrounds, their uniqueness, because we form community best by honoring individuality. And I don't think that's radically different from our face-to-face classroom, but it's something to remember as we move into an online space. And writing, of course, offers us infinite opportunities to do this. We can allow students to respond to the substance and content of each other's writing and to react to each other's ideas and learn from each other. So we can make a space where the different backgrounds that our students bring can be a real advantage. And I think that we can monitor that a little better sometimes in an online space than we can in a face-to-face classroom. And we can also engineer it in ways that, might be a little bit easier in an online classroom. And finally, let's think about compassion. One of the advantages for teachers of the online environment, which we've all had to navigate, or the remote learning that we all had to navigate this spring, is the way it brings together our students' lives at home and at school. And I know that this has been really challenging for many students whose home environments are challenging, who don't have, maybe the space or the conditions that they need at home to do their best work. But it also allows us as teachers to be more aware of the inequities that were always present in our classrooms and to look at our students in the context of their lives outside of school. So we can understand them better if we know them better, and the more that we can connect their lives outside of school with their learning, the better for all of us. This understanding can also remind us to be more compassionate about the challenges so many students face. I think one wonderful thing about the remote learning that we did this spring was the permission that at least my institution gave, and maybe yours as well, to be more compassionate with our students, be more understanding, allow more time for them to complete assignments, give days for them to make up work, to really start to humanize our teaching instead of always trying to control our students or push our students in different ways. So these are the things that I've thought of about how we can build community and what some of the advantages to the online environment are. And I really invite you to think about, what are the things that have gone well for you, or what have you noticed that are advantages in your online teaching experience this spring, and how can we take those things and work from them? I think some of you who've worked with me before have heard me say this, that if you can look for the good and build on the good, ask yourself, where is the good? What is going well? What are the advantages here? And then how can I build on that to make what the experience for my students and their learning even better? Thank you so much.